Well, good afternoon, Riverland College, Section 71. I just finished teaching three live Zoom classes for my main job, Central Lakes College, but every one of you are just as important to me as those students. So here I am on my front porch. Let's apologize for a couple of things. I live in a township called Collegeville Township, and the Collegeville chipmunk plague is continuing. So that's why you're hearing that chipmunk behind me, and I apologize for that. I also want to, not say I'm sorry, but just regret just a little bit being dressed casually. I try to look like a teacher. I mean, I have English major costumes that I get at Sabres in St. Cloud, and I have I try to look like a teacher. I love my colleagues, but I think some of them dress a little casually, like in hoodies. And by late fall, I got a look on, sport coat, scarf, Converse All-Stars. I mean, I've got just kind of a signature look that I've had for a while. But it's pretty hot today here in Stearns County. We are cruising towards 88 degrees, I think, today, and I'll bet it's even warmer down there. So I just want to shoot this vid, and then I'm going to go off and step off my pontoon. I have a little baby pontoon, and stepping off that pontoon into that beautiful, clear, clean Minnesota water is one of the vivid pleasures of my life. My lake is only 27 acres, but it's real deep and completely private, 70 feet deep, so there's a lot more water there than you'd think. I also probably have one or two classes where it's going to kind of look like this. In other words, I'm using my iPhone 11. I have, like I've said, a lot of serious equipment on the way, and that $15,000 Canon is going to be unboxed. A DSLR camera is going to be unboxed on Monday, so I should have a little more of a professional look going. Now, this is our third day of the semester, and I'm thinking in a kind of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday way. Like, you're not going to have a video every single day from me. Now there's a plane, dang it. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're certainly going to have a video or a series of videos, try to be efficient and try to be fast, which I haven't been for 2 minutes and 38 seconds. And I want to talk about something pretty important to me today. This is what I want to talk about. Well, I'll just get there when I get there. What I want to do is read a brief poem to you by a Belarusian poet that I'm becoming friends with, named Vaznia Mort. Vaznia Mort is a poet that I'm on Facebook with. I know Facebook's probably dead to you, but I find it fun, and I've got a million friends there, and many of them are poets. Vaznia Mort is a professor at Cornell University, and I was going to host her this year. I had even gotten the grant to do it from the Minnesota State Arts Board, and she lives in the United States now. But she's on my mind today because she lives in one of the countries where terrible protests are going on. The country is Belarus, and Lukashenko, whatever that guy's name is, the leader there, he's one of the last horrible dictators in Europe. And it's really sad what's going on there. He just faked an election, and people are in the streets, and 50 of them were arrested last night. And she is my friend, Vaznia, who I'll host someday, is really truly suffering for her people. She has a dedication to her country, even though she left it. And in particular, she has a preoccupation with trying to keep the language of Belarus alive. She has a brand new book coming out this fall, and this pandemic's going to go away, and I'm going to pick her up at the Minneapolis airport one of these days and bring her to my college and bring her to our state. Her poetry freaks me out, but she's a true rising star, and I'll go with one of the least freaky, although all of this poetry is freaky. Vaznia Mort. Preface. On a bare tree, a red beast. So still, it has become the tree. Now it's the tree that prowls over the beast, a cautious beast itself. A stone thrown at its breast is so fast, the stone has become the beast. Now it's the beast that throws itself like a stone, blood like a dog rose tree on a windy day. And the moon is trying on your face for the annual masquerade of the dead. Death decides to wait to hear more. So death mews. First your story, then mine. And now it's starting to rain. So I'll make a vid in the rain. Make sure I don't get my guitars wet here. Actually, let's wait for the rain to stop. I'm just going to cut this. I'll edit this, and teaching online is so weird. I'll be back. Well, never mind. I'll film the rest of this. Well, let's try to reapproach this little YouTube lesson. The rain has stopped. The sun's coming out, I think. And the chipmunk is continuing to chirp. So back to my fragile thread of thought. I don't have air conditioning at my house. That's why I'm not shooting this inside. And you're probably hearing a lot of ambient noise, and I'm sorry about that. When I get all my gear in that Sennheiser wireless mic, I'm going to sound a lot better, and maybe I can transcend that chipmunk and all these annoying birds. So here's the main thing I want to talk about today. I've got a couple things I want to show you before I get going. I picked up something today that I haven't picked up in 10 years. Not everything about getting fired from my old high school in 2009 was terrible. And I'm holding in my hands, I told you already, right? A whole generation of alums tried to defend me from being dragged off to the greatest job of my teaching life in the Minnesota state system. And the monks pulled kind of a fast one that spring when there was a terrible revolution, the monks of St. John's Abbey. You can Google them. When the school was being attacked with just millions of phone calls and emails and texts and people showing up, my beloved students from 19 years, yelling at him, they just said, okay, wait, we're going to put the pause button on this. Maybe we'll reconsider it. And they called a bunch of meetings with the board and back and forth and back and forth. That quieted it down. And then in the end, they left the knife in me, as well as 10 of my brothers and sisters got fired that year from that school. What I'm holding here is a compilation of some of the several hundred emails that were sent to that school. I was just telling classical mythology at noon today in my lecture that I've never in my life have taken this up to my college. It's just stayed here in this house. It would feel like bragging to go, look at all these people that loved me once, and look at all the wonderful things they're writing about me. But I haven't picked this up in a long time, and I picked it up last night and could remember this. There's Sam Conway, there's Sarah Ellen Marvin. She's a psychologist now. And these read like a mythology. I feel like a mythological figure, these people that came forth to defend my life. There's stories of me doing things in here that I barely remember doing when I was young and probably a little more fiery. Did I really, for instance, once go to a biker bar in Greenwald with a bat and tell the bartender that if he didn't stop serving my students, that I'd come back there and wreck the place? There were these unbelievable bikers sitting there, just holding their beers, staring at me. And the bartender said he would start carding them. So that worked. It's just interesting to read about yourself and go, wow, this is me. This can't be me. This can't be me. What a pack of lies. I wasn't that good a teacher. Or maybe I was. And also, not this guitar, but this guitar. When I graduated those kids that year, I found this guitar on this front porch. The Locke family, for whom I taught 4 of their boys, 3 of them. And they bought this guitar from me. It's a Gretsch Electromatic. You could take out somebody's ancestral village with it. Not that I ever would. So it wasn't all bad. Got a big pat on the back, got a big send-off, got a guitar, and I got a new teaching life. Look, I'm focusing like 7-8 minutes into this video. I need to talk to you about something for a while today. It's my main topic, the idea of keeping an academic journal. And I also have to talk about it in the context of how I've been doing it for so many years. And it also has to do with me getting my old head around the idea of in this reinvention of becoming an online teacher, there's some things that I obviously have to do differently, and I'm not going to let myself be sad about it. So a way of thinking of it is the idea of doing what we're all doing. We're all having remember when moments. Remember when I could take my wife out to dinner before we both got nervous about being in restaurants? Remember when I could go into a grocery store comfortably instead of getting all my stuff pre-ordered curbside at Barley's and Lund's and St. Cloud? Remember when I could hug my sons without being afraid of them because they're living in the world? And part of me, at least on this day, is going, wow, remember when I spent most of my life as an English teacher reading handwritten prose? Remember that? And that's got to change. No, it was probably the most satisfying to do this in classical mythology, but I basically told my students today, obviously the ones that I hadn't worked with before, probably 8 or 9 students in the room that are taking their second and third class from me. I told my students today that had they come into my regular classroom, E339 at Central Lakes College, that they would have come in, there would have been beautiful music going, probably a painting or a beautiful photograph up on the screen behind me. And very early in that class, I would have gotten them up out of their seats and lined up and facing one another, and which can feel a little bit weird. And I've been doing this for years now. Then what would happen is I would have played some beautiful, beautiful classical music, ceremonial classical music, and I would have walked through that gauntlet with a box, giving each one of my students one of my signature pens. It's a pen that tells the truth. It's a Faber-Castell Uniball Micropoint Deluxe, 5mm. I've been using these babies since the 80s. It's like a great pen is what it's like. It's a way of greeting students. It's a way of saying to them, hey, I love you. Here's a present. Here's a tool, something that you can use. And the reason why I do that is because until this year, for 34 years, having students keep an academic journal, or what could also be called a medieval commonplace book, has been a really big deal to me. My whole life, that's how I've gotten writing out of students. I told them further that we're at an ordinary year. They would be getting the 2 journal prompts that they got today, and then this Friday, what they would hand in is a spiral notebook with 2 full pages of handwritten prose. In all these years, what happens then is I take the notebooks home in a great big dorky suitcase with wheels, and I go over to my little guest house there with a big pine table overlooking the lake, and I sit and I read student writing. Handwritten, cursive or printed prose, doesn't matter to me. The students that I've worked with before in that room today, some of them held up their pen. They still had it. People keep these pens for years because they come to cherish it. They learn in a hurry that I'm not reading the writing for the grade, the verdict of the grade. This is A writing, this is B writing, this is C writing. I'm simply reading the writing and watching them think on paper. Out of respect, reading every single sentence the way they wrote it, one word at a time. And it's just provided for so long, so many opportunities. It provides a way for students to feel connected to me because the following Monday they get their notebooks back. It provides a way for them to have and acquire the habitude of mind of being a writer, because if you want to be a writer, you got to do it every day, or try to do it every day. Just a few lines would be worth it. It's also a way for me to give them feedback. And for years I've been in the margins, just kind of pinging them, letting them know I'm there. Not correcting the prose, not fixing the apostrophes, not correcting spelling. I'm bored by that stuff. I'm not a grammarian. But just in a human way, in the marginalia, just writing little smileys, little exclamation points so they know I'm chipper. Lots of it, once in a while I'll write wow, or sucks to be you, if I think it might suck to be them, joking a little bit. And then an unreadable note at the end. I love reading cursive prose. My handwriting isn't much to look at. Only twice in all these years have 2 students found my handwriting beautiful. They were both Japanese. I don't know what that means. But it's just kind of been the economy of the class. I've got more to say about this later in the semester. We all use keyboards right? Because it's fast, it's efficient. But I stay with the idea for years that I learned from Dr. Richard Beach in the early 80s at the University of Minnesota, that there is something about the physicality of writing, right? The idea of an idea or a flukish thought coming from one portion of the brain, going through the corpus callosum into the other hemisphere of the brain, and then depending upon what hand you use, physically down onto the paper. Richard Beach knew this mattered years before the CAT scans and neurological studies proved that the brain lights up in a different way when we're writing with one hand, with a pen. This goes back many, many hundreds of years. And keyboard's a new way of creating writing. The brain simply lights up in a different way. And there's all kinds of studies out there. You could Google it. We've also done studies that compare the learning between students, the learning rates between students who are taking notes with a keyboard in a class or taking notes with a pen. Having long ago been the secretary of our MSCF union at Central Lakes College, I know that if you can type fast enough, and I'm pretty fast, you can almost transcribe something. But if you're writing with a pen, you can only get a little bit down. We know from serious studies that the student who's taking notes with a pen is actually learning more and remembering more because they have to be prudent. They have to be judicious with what they get down because they can only do it so fast. They're more selective and more careful in their note-taking. And the reason why I love this pen is because it's got a metal point, not a rolling point. Ballpoint pens are for amateurs. These babies, get one of these. They got to be in Austin. This is 90 cents. Get a Faber-Castell Uniball Micropoint Deluxe and feel the scratch. It feels like etching. Or it reminds me of guitars. In a couple weeks, my young boy's going to move out, take up his life. He's got a teaching job and a girlfriend, and I wish him luck. But we're going to be having some serious discussions about which instruments stay here and which ones are going. We got all kinds of guitars and mandolins and a banjo and ukuleles and electric and acoustic guitars. So I got the fight of my life coming on. Some are his, some are mine. We're going to work it out because he probably isn't going to be able to afford his cell phone or his insurance. So maybe set up a rental situation. Quick analogy. When I play guitar, it feels like it seems similar to what's happening when I'm writing with a pen because I can feel the steel. I don't need a pick, right? See, I got nothing to show off because I'm not any good anymore. You can it doesn't matter, you get the idea. In the same way that I can hit that string and hit that note and squeeze it and shake it, so too do I feel that physicality of the experience of writing when I pick up a pen. I'll put up a little vid in a little while here. One of the things I didn't get done this last spring, I was going to learn every single song on the new Selena Gomez album, and I was going to perform it live in Intro to the Humanities. I only got one figured out. I'll play that to prove to you that I really can play guitar pretty soon. So I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Now this spring, I was teaching a 6-week class for Riverland College to help my dean down there, my old dean and now my new dean. And I wanted to replicate the experience. I wanted to replicate the experience of continuing to read handwritten prose. And at that point, I wasn't able to quite let it go. So I told my students to keep a journal, to keep an academic journal, and then at the end of the week, photograph with their phones the writing, and then post it up as photographs. I had the hope that it would at least approximate what I've been doing for so many years, and it wasn't the same at all. You can't write on a screen, right? And I'm pausing that right now. One of the problems was it was way too many clicks. And if you're an online teacher, you got to minimize the clicking. Inevitably, the photographs would come in sideways, and I'd have to click and make it go upright so I could read it. And it was like 10, 15, 20 clicks with multiple files. And I'm pausing it. I'm not ending it, I'm just pausing it. It's resting as a project, just like my poetry series is resting. And it'll come back to life when life comes back to life. Whether you're doing it with a keyboard, as we're going to be doing it this semester for this class, section 71, or with a keyboard, when you're writing, you are creating your own knowledge, right? I used to tell students, you know, you should plan out every sentence, you should plan out every paragraph, you should plan out every essay. And I'd say, you know, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. And those students long ago would look at me like I just said something so deep. That's just a stupid crap thing that teachers say. I didn't know at the time that when students write, that's not how it works. They don't think ahead to where they're going. They're sort of groping up an alley, generating meaning and creating meaning and knowledge and thoughts as they do it. That's why writing is generative. It generates. And I've got I do have a thing or two to tell you about writing, even though I'm a fake writing teacher. I'm really a literature person. Writing is generative or regenerative. And we're going to do it, we're going to keyboard this semester. When I started at St. John's Prep in the early 90s, I say to my students, okay, this week, this Friday, I want 1 page of self-expressive writing, and I'd like 1 page on Hamlet or William Faulkner or this philosophy, this notion, this idea. Because I figured, and we'll be talking about that soon when we really start digging into some content here, which is coming pretty soon. I figured if I was pulling academic writing out of them and self-expressive writing out of them, that would be a way to go. And I did that for 3-4 years, and pretty quickly I started realizing I was getting too much information, man, especially from 16-year-olds. I won't burden you with examples, even though I've got a billion war stories. I remember picking up a journal one Sunday night of a young woman, 16-year-old girl, and I'm reading along, and you know, it's a beautiful evening. I got a cup of green tea, and she's writing along, and she gets to the end of her journal entry, and she said, hey, you know what, Johnson? On Monday, I'm going to break up with my boyfriend right after school. And what do you say to that? I think I probably wrote an exclamation point. You didn't want to do a frowny or a smiley because that would show approval or disapproval. It's none of my business. So I wrote the exclamation point, said thanks for your prose, and handed the journals back that day. Well, you can imagine what it was like to be walking in my old high school, going down the corridor and seeing the boy that she was about to break up with. I remember seeing his face and thinking, you look so happy now. You don't have any idea what's going to happen before you get on the bus, before you go home. I wanted to warn him. I wanted to tell him, hey, you can't always get what you want. Rolling Stones taught me that. Generally, you're going to keep an academic journal to reinforce the things that we're reading about and talking about and wondering about. English classes are dead simple. I have to get you reading, writing, speaking, and thinking. And academic journals are a great way to do it. It will trick you into writing 35 or 40 miniature essays. It's just worked too well, too long. You got to trust me on this. Right now, I'm going to get this video uploading. And what's kind of rough is that it takes a while to get a video edited. Roughly, I got to get better at that. I got to get better at all this. And then get it uploaded to YouTube. It can take a couple of 3 hours. So I think what I'll do is run to my little laptop and say, hey, 71, you got a vid coming and you got journal prompts coming. Don't worry. Read that Edmondson essay that I published. Every week for this entire semester, it will never not happen. Every week early, probably Monday or Tuesday night at the very latest. Let's call it Monday night. You're going to get a couple of questions. They're going to be a couple of prompts. And the prompts are going to get you thinking and writing. Write to the prompt. Write to the intention of the prompt. The creation of prompts also is my way of modeling invention, which is something I'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. I'm modeling thinking. Please sit down and create one Word file that's going to give me 2 entries. By an entry, I mean 1 page of a Word document. Let's go with a 12-point font too. Don't give me a 14, 15, 16-point font. Give me a full page of writing, and each page of writing is 20 points. So if each Friday you can find your way to writing just a couple of pages of prose, it's 40% of the grade and you'll ace it. You got that? That's just gravy. That's all you got to do, is get that writing in that deal. I'm not going to be correcting this writing. I will probably respond. I got voice activated software going, so I'll give you a little, just a little pat on the back and try to prove to you that I read your prose, try to react to some aspect of it. I won't be writing a lot. You'll get a few sentences back, so you know, in addition to the points, that I'm paying attention to you and that I care about you and that your writing matters to me and that I'm witnessing your life. One of the things about the journals, and the journals of all my students from the past semester because of the pandemic, are down in my shed. They're in my garage in that wheel case. It was really heartbreaking not to be able to get them back to them. And they're writing me going, Johnson, how are you going to get my journal back? I'm writing back, I don't know. The great thing about the journal is that it would compile. Borges says that everything is a compilation. I love the idea of something building up, something accumulating. And what's great is that students at the end of a semester would have that notebook, and some of them save them for the rest of their lives. With a handwritten journal, I try to get 35 pages or so out of young men. Young women are going to write 40, 45, 50 pages per semester. There's some gender issues we got to talk about, and women are just going to write more. They just are. And if you think if I offended you because you think I put down my own gender, dudes, well then you're offended. It's just an observation. It's no big deal. Women write a little bit more. If you ever have any questions about anything, especially the journal entries, give me a heads up, text me, email me. This is 20 minutes. The other one was about 5. I think I've covered it. Get one of these pens. Get a guitar too. They're easy. You can be playing one in a few weeks. It's just shapes. You don't have to know anything about music to be a guitar player. And I look forward to this portion of the course continuing somewhat in the way it has in the past. And I say a lot, and reminds me of a Naomi Shihab Nye vid I should post up for you, because it really says something about the idea of just writing a little bit every day. Just write a few lines every day. Think of this, if you wrote a page a day, at the end of the year, you'd have a 365-page novel. Nobody thinks like that. I do. So let me go work on editing this and getting this uploading. I'll shoot a little note out to all of you right now wondering what the deal is for today. Again, this is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. Once in a while, I'll shoot you stuff on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I hope everything is well down there with you in southern Minnesota, in the Austin area, northern Iowa area. And couple of weather observations. If you're somebody who prays once in a while, there's plenty to pray about. There's a lot of trouble today on August, whatever day it is, August 24th, it's August 26th. 600,000 of our brothers and sisters are fleeing from a hurricane that's about to smack Houston, the Louisiana, Texas area. And I can't only imagine what it's like to be running away from a hurricane in a pandemic. You want to go to a shelter in a pandemic and get COVID? We got trouble upon trouble upon trouble. And I talked with a couple of poets that I'm friends with in the Berkeley, California area, north of San Francisco. The fires there are just terrible. They can't even leave their houses. The quality of the air is the worst. It's worse there than anywhere on the planet. And that smoke is here now. I can smell it as I sit on my porch. I could smell it when I was running today. There's kind of a haze over everything because millions of acres are burning up out there. And the moon, when I came off my lake last night, was pure white. But I hear that by midnight it was blood red because of that smoke. So let's keep sticking together, and maybe you think the same thought that I think just about every morning when I wake up, especially in the pandemic. My first thought is, now what will happen to me today? See you soon, so to speak.